Good evening, everybody. Tonight we are visiting with Pee Wee. With Pee Wee and Tank over here. But we're visiting with Miss Deborah Talley.
Hello.
I hope you remember who I am. I'm Vicki Davis, and I'm the women's director at Whitten Baptist Church, and this is my assistant, Mercedes Watkins, and she is on the couch tonight because there's three of us, so we thought this might be better.
There's 5 if you count the dogs.
There's 5 if you count the dogs, and they are as big as humans. They're just over here. They'll be out in a minute, though. I promise they will make their appearance. Sweet boy. Tonight we have asked Deborah if she would like to join us in Bible study, and well, not tonight, but I asked her last week if she would like to join us in a Bible study, and she was very ecstatic to do so. Deborah has been home since all this COVID started, and she said, yeah, she guesses that she would just skip over the 6-foot parameter deal, which we are kind of close, but you see she's still not getting really close. That's fine. Oh, she's not scared. So she has been home, and also she doesn't struggle with being home from what I just found out. She's kind of actually enjoying it. So that's a good thing. I guess it's a little therapeutic.
It is. I'm very much an introvert.
Introvert. Would have never thought that. Anybody that knows her, did y'all know that?
Yes. Yes, I did.
I never
An
would.
introvert knows an introvert.
I'm very much an introvert.
I would have never guessed that.
I'm extroverted by choice.
But you do not seem that way at church. You're not in a shell.
Give or take.
She has extrovert tendencies.
Extrovert tendencies.
My job requires me to be extroverted, and so therefore I just become extroverted. But my comfort zone is introversion.
Gotcha. Well, we're learning a little bit about Deborah tonight. I had no idea.
Did we ask them if they can hear us and understand us and everything?
Can everybody hear us? We can't see any comments if they do. Oh, she's going to pull up hers. Did you turn the comments off, Mercedes?
They're just not up. There's no rolling in.
Maybe nobody can hear us.
Maybe nobody likes this.
Maybe nobody likes us.
You said that, not me.
Right, we are.
Okay, that's loud. It's fine.
Okay. It's just running a few minutes behind, as you can tell. See, somebody just did. Deborah Talley is watching. You're watching. Look at that. So, anyways, I called her a week ago, and I asked her if she would like to do this, and she, of course, if anybody that knows Deborah knows that she kind of went several different directions with this. What were you gonna wear?
Oh, I was gonna wear my wedding dress.
She wanted to wear her wedding dress at first.
I was gonna do my hair and makeup and wear the wedding dress, and then I lost track of time today.
So we just have her. That's all we need, really. That's all we need. So she has chosen 2 Corinthians. Am I right?
Yes.
2 Corinthians 12:5-10. And we had a discussion before all this started of who was going to read, and Deborah won. So, Deborah, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and read the scripture you've chosen to study this evening.
2 Corinthians 12:5-10. On behalf of this man I will boast, but on my own behalf I will not boast, except of my weakness. Though if I should wish to boast, I would not be a fool, for I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain from it, so that no one may think more of me than he sees in me or hears from me. So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
So I think I know why you chose this, but why did you choose this passage?
So 2 Corinthians 12:9 is my favorite verse, where it talks about my grace is sufficient for you, and boasting in our weaknesses versus boasting in our strength. And it's just always been, I memorized that verse when I was very, very young, and it just always stuck with me that it doesn't matter how strong I am, but it matters how strong Christ is. And Christ has so much power that he's able to, like in my weaknesses, that's when he is glorified. When it's something that I can't do on my own power or in my own strength, like that's when God's glory is shown the most.
Because he gives you the strength to.
Well, he doesn't give you the strength, he is your strength.
Right. Very well said. Very well said. I didn't bring not one pair of my reading glasses. So
I have some, but it probably wouldn't help you.
probably not. I noticed in the Bible that I used to study that my gracious favor is all you need. My power works best when you're weak. In your weakness is in red.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the scripture that you like the most, right? That's the passage that you like. Mercedes, how do you relate with this passage?
Well, when you've hit your weakest points, that is when you become the most vulnerable to let go and let God.
True. I noticed in the study Bible that it has, I believe that says Luke. Does that say Luke?
Yes.
23:43. Yeah, you can get there before me. I'd like to know what that passage is in relation to this.
I usually just study, like, I'll usually just think about that verse, though, in the like, with just verse 9, but whenever you asked me about what verse I wanted to do, I was like, well, I'm going to look at the context of it, and I just think that putting it in the context of where Paul was in his mind, like, mentally and spiritually, when he said that, it was just so interesting, like, to talk about how he had plenty of opportunities to be conceited, because he was pedigreed.
Right.
Paul was it. And so he had so many opportunities to, talk about his strength and, I did this and I got here, but yet he was talking of, like, it's not his strength or his power, that there's even something in his life that keeps him from being where he thinks he wants to be and kind of keeps him humble.
What do you think that thorn is?
I have no idea. I've heard so many different things.
See, me too.
I've heard it might have been like his eyesight.
It could have been anything. It could have been
Physical ailment of some sort.
right.
It could have even been like a sin that he struggled with too. That's one that I've heard a lot, is that it was a sin that, not that he like necessarily engaged in, but something that was a temptation for him.
Yeah.
Of physical nature.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that when you first told me you wanted to study this, I was kind of like, I wonder what that could be.
I don't know. I've heard so many. My study note said, the nature of this thorn or messenger is much disputed. The most frequently proposed possibilities include Paul's inner psychological struggles, such as grief over his earlier persecution of the church, or sorrow over Israel's unbelief or continuing temptations, Paul's opponents who continued to persecute him, some kind of physical affliction, possibly poor eyesight, malaria, fever, or severe migraines. I haven't heard that one. Some kind of demonic harassment. Most commenters cautiously prefer some of the Third view, since thorn in the flesh would suggest a physical condition.
That's pretty much what my study notes say in here.
I've heard it could have been like depression or something like that too. Just anything that gets your mind and eye off of the prize.
So, I'm sure several of us have. I probably have more than one thorn. I probably have like a rose bush of thorns.
I get hair splinters. Does that count?
Those are what? Those hurt.
Hair splinters.
Never had a hair splinter.
They hurt.
When you cut the hair, it's got a sharp edge and it sticks in you somewhere.
No, I've never had one of those.
I can't imagine why.
You do hair, I don't. Well, there's a lot of this passage though, because if you go up and you start at the beginning of 12, it really puts it into perspective, and that's why I did not know. I did not know that the thorn. At first, when I first read it, I was thinking the thorn was actually a thorn. I mean, because that's the way I took it. But now that you've put it that way, I can really see how many people have more than one, and the struggle that we go through pricking them out one at a time. Of course, we will never rid of all of them.
Well, he said that he prayed 3 times about it, and I think at that point, I don't think he necessarily. Let me see if I can find it. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me, and then it goes into the grace portion of it. So like he begged God, hey, please take this from me, take this from me, take this from me, and then God said, no, that's there for a reason, so that I can be glorified. Get over it. He probably didn't say exactly like that, but
You kind of feel that it went that way.
yeah,
And it could have actually went that way.
it could have.
I really, really, really love this passage. I had not even read it, except for, of course, in church whenever we would go over it or something like that during a sermon. But I'm really glad that you have brought this passage to me today, because I actually am going through some issues right now that, I feel the thorns. I can feel them. So,
I feel like the whole purpose of this is that we don't necessarily try to fix the thorns, because some issues in your life you do need to fix, but then there's some that we have to acknowledge that on our own power and our own strength we have no capability whatsoever of handling it, which is why Christ came to handle all that stuff for us.
such a wise young woman. Oh, hold that.
I have a nice carpet, okay? Please don't spill that on there.
No, I love this carpet.
I'm just kidding. It's literally builder grade, and I have massive dogs.
Your dog has his paw
I
on
know.
my
I took a
foot.
picture.
Is that not the cutest thing ever? I think he likes me.
He does.
He's huge.
He's not picky.
Oh, does he like that cat?
They're fine.
Because it scared me when she went.
Have y'all ever, sorry,
That's okay.
have y'all ever been in a position of taking pleasure in the weaknesses, insults, catastrophes, persecutions, and pressures?
So, like, when people do that, basically, like, if you're stuck in that.
Yeah, and like in verse 10 it says, so I take pleasure in weaknesses, insults, catastrophes, persecutions, and in pressures because of Christ, for when I am weak, then I am strong. So like, you may not take pleasure in it at the time, but once everything is said and done and things have been handled and you've come out the other side, have you ever taken pleasure in those things, going through those things?
After the fact?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
then it's kind of like, oh.
Well, and then afterwards, you might come across somebody who's going through something similar, and you go, "Hey, I've been there."
Yeah, it's interesting, like we were talking about earlier, how I said I've enjoyed this time, like to be away from work and everything. And I love my job, absolutely love what I do. And
Yes, you do.
It's so fun, but it's so nice to just have this downtime. And the only concern I really had was the financial aspect of it. And so, like you were pulling out in verse 10, it's been very enjoyable to see how God is working through the situation to provide for us in various different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've had random people who barely know us just give us a couple $100s, and I've had clients and friends give me gift cards and stuff just to kind of help us through like the first couple of weeks and stuff. And so it's been very humbling to see that, you know, all this time I've been, you know, busting my butt and working my job thinking, oh yeah, I'm providing, I'm making this money and all this. And it's not really how it is. Like, God's provided 100% of everything that we ever get. And so now that I don't have that sense of control over my finances, and it's strictly 100% whatever God's gonna do, which I never had the control in the first place, but I felt like I did. It's just so like freeing and so nice to see where God is choosing to make that manifest and to happen. And you know, like you were saying, you know, you can see it like after the fact, but even like during this, like I kind of had when this first started, my mindset was, I'm not going to stress out about it because I know God's going to provide. And so I think having that mindset has made it more enjoyable for me going through the like financial hardships or whatever, trying to figure out where God's going to provide, and we've been fine. Like,
Been in the same boat.
yeah, it's
Yep.
so cool. Like, it's so freaking cool.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, I guess that's one thing, because I have been a control freak 98% of my life until a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago actually, when I did realize that I wasn't in control.
It's a facade. We think we are, but we're really not.
But you know, once you get through that and once you let it go, isn't it just a relief?
It is. It's like when you're in the position of feeling like you're in control of something, you feel like you have that power. But then when that facade of being in control is taken away and you realize just how powerless you are, but how powerful God is, it takes so much pressure off of you, because you put a lot of pressure on yourself thinking that you can control something that you really can't. So you bust your butt and push and push and push, whether it's people or your surroundings or money or whatever. You're pushing to be in control of that, but the reality is you're not. And so when the idea of being in control is taken away from you, or you give it up, like it's just like a weight.
You can literally go.
Yeah.
And it be an actual sigh of relief.
I think I memorized that verse, verse 9, when I was 8 or 9 years old, and it's, you know, I'm 19 now, so it's been a good 10 years, and so don't worry, we're lightning proof in here. But I mean, I've known this verse for a good, like, I don't know, 15 years, something like that, and so it's something that, that's not even the right math there, forget that, never mind, I've already had that. Anyway, a really long time, like 20-something years.
She's doing color.
I do. Math has gotten me in trouble before. So anyway, 20 plus years I've known this verse, and I've seen it be, this verse and 1 Corinthians 10:13 are my two verses that have just, every stage of my life, it has been applicable. Every stage.
Wow. Want to add anything to that?
It almost, my brain keeps going back to the do not worry ones that we covered last week, in correlation with this.
Because what's the point? Because he's the one that's in control, and once you agree, or once you decide, or once you put it in your brain, or once you fixate yourself, or once you settle into the comfort of his presence, or that's the only time you're gonna see it, I guess.
Well, if you take the be anxious for nothing and combine it with my grace is sufficient, it's a matter of don't be anxious about it, because this very thing you're freaking out about is how I'm going to show myself to be so powerful, like how God's going to show himself to be so powerful, and then we can just stare in amazement and give God glory.
Amen. We're gonna have to do this more often. Without a camera in front of us.
Oh, once I go back to work, I ain't got time for you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Wow, did y'all hear that?
You might need some ice out of your cup for that.
I worked
minor
till
burn.
Heat.
That
I just got heated. I don't
I
know.
felt that heat from here.
I'm just
Yeah.
Honey, you're a little warm. You might burn me if you touch me.
I'm just kidding.
I love you.
I love you too.
But anyways, we do actually care for one another deeply.
Oh yeah, I forget this on the public page, and some of these people don't know.
They don't know
You
us.
know, certain.
They don't know us like the people that wouldn't know us.
It's true.
Because the people that wouldn't know it would be like, there's Deborah.
Yes, they would.
She's arrived, ladies and gentlemen.
Deborah was here a minute ago. Well, that's Deborah.
Exactly.
Shanae.
Right. Well, what time is it?
6:24.
Oh, wow. That 30 minutes went by fast.
Yeah, it's because I'm that interesting.
Deborah is really in the house now. Forget the shyness. Maybe we will have her back on here one night. I can't see your face though because the comments are in the way.
It's fine, pretty. You can look at me this way.
What are we going to do with her?
Keep her. We
Yeah,
will keep her.
we will. Oh, well. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed our study segment for tonight. Usually our study segments are, well, when we don't have a phone or camera in the room, we usually go for hours on end. But considering that there's other people that want to get on here besides us, we thought we would be nice. So, Mrs. Talley, I would like to thank you
It's my pleasure.
for this time with you in your house with your wonderful dogs. Before we leave, though, we'll show you all the dogs because I know they haven't made their appearance. And Mercedes, I want to thank you again for tonight. I don't know who will be on here next Thursday with us. We'll have to think about it. We may talk to you about that. Maybe you could give us some input on who you think would be good.
I'll think about it.
Who knows? Would you like to show the dogs to the people? And you can do your wow moment.
They were groomed today, so they're very, very relaxed from their pamper session.
They're very sweet. Look at him.
That's
Look at him.
Pee-wee?
Yes.
Pee-wee.
Pee
And
Wee's
then
up for grabs if anybody's interested.
you have Tank.
And this is Tank. He's sweet boy. He's sweet boy. So they have been very good, though. Pastor Ben, they were very good tonight. They were very well behaved. You've done a good job with raising them.
We good?
Yeah.
All right, and this has been a wow moment.
Y'all have a good night.
Toodles.